Welcome, everyone. I am Joe Rendace, and this is the 6th episode in my podcast series called How to Fake It When. In each episode, we focus on important moments of our lives that we suck at and explore how you could better fake it until you make it. So, join us for a thought-provoking session of some fact, some fiction, and a little fun that looks to explore the reality and wretchedness of human interaction. Let's kick this off with a shout out for this episode's sponsor. Crenshaw's Crusher is the perfect hand tool that delicately breaks apart pistachios from their shells. So remember, when you need to top off your ice cream sundae with a little salty flavor, Crenshaw is waiting to crush your nuts. I may need to hire a marketing person. My co-host AI, as if I could get rid of him, is my internal voice of censorship and reason. AI, who, as most of you sadly know by now, is not artificial intelligence, but the asshole inside of me. Think of him as the guardian of your how-to galaxy.
I am not Groot.
True. I was thinking you were more like Rocket the Raccoon, just annoying.
He was the smart one.
That's true. Alright, so today we're discussing how to fake it when discussing the stock market. What's the first line we hear when people want to first get started in the stock market? They'll say, I'm thinking of investing, but I don't know where to start. Well, let's start with the history of the stock market itself. In 1792, 24 rich guys sat under a buttonwood tree in Manhattan, New York, and agreed to trade with each other. Where exactly did this happen? You got it. Wall Street, where there was no wall. Well, there was a wall 100 years earlier from 1653 to 1699. A 12-foot wall built by the Dutch to perimeter off attacks from the English. Nowadays, they would have just put a bunch of Ring doorbells on that wall. Would have seen anybody coming. But it also protected against the native Indians and pirate attacks. Pirate attacks. Pirates of Manhattan. That was Johnny Depp's sequel in court. So yeah, there's been a lot of turmoil on Wall Street since it's opened. At least a half a dozen situations that sent the market reeling. They were called panics. Sort of like the band Panic at the Disco, except it was the traders back in the 1800s that had the longer hair. And what was even bigger than the panics? Well, if I said the words Black Friday and stock market, when do you think I'm talking about?
1929?
Not 1929. That was commonly called the Great Depression. And that actually happened on a Thursday. Black Friday was actually 60 years earlier in 1869. It was a gold conspiracy that included the brother-in-law of then-President Ulysses S. Grant. If there was cable news back then, they'd have feasted on that one. Can't you see it? Wolf Blitzer from CNN doing the interview. So, President Grant, you were caught drunk driving your horse, your sister married a criminal, and my gray beard is much sexier than yours. What is your response? Grant would have challenged him to a duel and shot him.
Stood over Wolf's body screaming, fake news.
Wow. Real smooth first commentary.
I'm still warming up.
Okay, fair. So, as I mentioned, the Wall Street crash of 1929 is what most people remember hearing about. Brokers nosediving off buildings and soup lines for all the unemployed. Over a 3-year period, Wall Street lost 90% of its value. But there's been other bad days on Wall Street. 1987 saw the largest one-day slide ever, 20% of the market. After that, if there's a 20% drop, the market halts for the day. And if you think of it, other than having insider trading, which is knowing details about a company before the public does and profiting off it, buying and selling stocks is no different than gambling. It wiped out the smartest of the smart. I wish poker dealers would halt me after I lose 20% of my money.
You have that. It's our wife with her hands around our throat.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Easy on the violence. You're supposed to be the voice of reason here.
Stop gambling away little Johnny's baby food money.
Little Johnny? You know we don't have kids at home anymore, right? And no one was ever named Johnny?
Get on with it.
Cripes. You're on a timeout, little AI. Alright, back to business here. The last crash I'll mention was in 2008, when the housing bubble crashed, oil prices were high, and the global markets all took a hit. Watch the movie The Big Short. It'll tell you a lot about it. And it'll let you see Margot Robbie in a bubble bath explaining terms like subprime and shorting. It's a brilliant dumbing down of market terms for we, the viewers. And again, Margot Robbie in a bubble bath.
Little Johnny hasn't had a bath in weeks.
Again with the imaginary children? I ought to punch you right in the mouth.
Go for it. I double dog dare you.
Oh yeah, right. Moving along, let's get to our situational conversations. First up, let's say Anthony is married to Susie, and he's invited along to Susie's boss's work party. So, Anthony needs to peel himself off the couch and dig out his suit and get it cleaned. No belts needed since he put on a few pounds lately and now looks like an airbag that deployed out of a steering wheel. Or as Susie calls him, 5 gallons of lard oozing out of a 1-quart bag. So let's fast forward. They've been at her boss's party for well over 45 minutes, and Anthony yearns to get the hell out of there and back to his couch and 2 trays of lasagna. But he knows until his wife can have her moment of sucking up to the boss, the distance between him, his couch, and the ESPN SportsCenter theme won't be getting any shorter. Finally, the moment arrives. Susie, not so subtly, inches into her boss's can't avoid her any longer zone, and their eyes make unavoidable contact. Let's call him Boss Bill, a self-righteous, self-centered, self-inflated piece of work who can barely fake making eye contact with Anthony for the 30 seconds needed before he pretends to be ushered away for an important phone call. And then it happens. Boss Bill fires the opening salvo. So, Anthony, the Dow Jones really climbed this week, and it looks like the crazy bear market's over. What do you plan on buying? Now, normally, Anthony's mind would go blank, and he would think Dow Jones was a mountain climbing athlete who escaped from a slew of killer cocaine bears. But Anthony caught a few of our podcasts and realized he needed to do a little preparation that wasn't followed by the letter H.
Hemorrhoid jokes? This is turned to crap.
Oh, look who made it funny. He's still in a timeout. So, after Anthony overheard a few of these podcasts that his mother-in-law was playing loudly to cover up the sound of his snorting Parmesan cheese, he knew to brush up on Boss Bill's strength, which is Anthony's own weakness: stocks. So, he looked up and learned that the Dow Jones was the average of a group of stock prices and named after 2 finance journalists, Charles Dow and Edward Jones, from the 1800s. And the term bear and bull comes from how each animal attacks. A bull thrusts its horns up, and a bear swipes down. So, Boss Bill is saying the Dow stocks all rose, and the sluggish market had a good week on its way to being bullish. Tip 1. Learn terms you've heard forever and still never looked up.
What? That's the tip?
Yes, that's the tip. Look, if you're married and at a party with some rich a-holes, it's a good bet you've spent enough years on this earth where you've heard these terms before and just ignored the crap out of them because you weren't interested. Too bad. Get interested. It's time for a drink. You still need to answer Boss Bill, so tell him you just had your broker short stocks of a major blue chip company and wink at him. Shorting stocks means you borrow and sell those stocks and hope they drop quick. Then you can buy them back and make an overall profit. And blue chip stocks come from the blue chips in a poker game, which are usually the most valuable and dependable. At this point, Boss Bill will actually look at you and not past or through you and gives you that impressive nod of approval. Your wife may even let you back in the bedroom tonight. So, tip 2, make sure you showered and put cologne on like you would apply bug spray by a swamp, by the gallon. You never know when it's going to be go time.
You're the worst podcaster ever.
Then that's not saying much for yourself, buddy. All right, for our second conversation, let's look at it from more of an entertainment standpoint. We'll skip over boring real-life Bernie Madoff Ponzi schemes and look at a few fictional movies that captured our attention and made greed, well, good. So, let's have a guy named Jack show up at a family reunion. Jack lives a pitiful existence. He was just fired from his job as a professional odor tester because his own body scent kept breaking the sensors. And, sadly, his wife has passed out from drinking too much with her boyfriend last night. But it's a major holiday, and Jack is a good son, so he's gone over alone to his mother's house and run straight into his sister's boyfriend, Gil, who has embarrassed Jack at the last few holidays for his lack of knowledge on anything not related to autopsies or taxidermy. The TV is on and showing a movie. Gil looks at the TV and says, Charlie Sheen and Michael Douglas made stock sexy again. The 80s and 90s were fun, coke-filled wild rides until DiCaprio came along and made everybody look bad. Am I right, Jackie? Gil purposely raises his voice so everyone stops and stares, waiting for Jack's response. Jack feels this pressure. He rubs his hand through his hair, singular as there's just one Charlie Brown follicle up on the balding dome called his forehead. His nieces and nephews, no older than 6, mock Uncle Jackie, but he tries to stand tall, even though tall is his 4'9" height. Then, having utilized tip number 3, which is know the show, it's Jack attack time. So, when seeing a TV playing a movie, a sporting event, a news event, or even that crazy dog show that's on every frickin' Thanksgiving after the Macy's parade, quickly whip out the supercomputer phone and get in touch with Mr. Google.
Is that a sex reference?
No, gross. It's a metaphor. Jeez. So, when Jack arrived, the TV was on and he hit the info button on his mother's remote and saw that the movie playing was Wall Street from 1987. Michael Douglas played corrupt stockbroker Gordon Gecko and Sheen was his apprentice. And DiCaprio played a real-life broker in The Wolf of Wall Street. So, Jack now smiles and says to Gil, well, maybe greed is good, like Gecko said, but the wolf thought jail was bad because that's where he wound up. Bring back any memories, Gil? Jack's line is just sly enough for every ear in the house to wonder exactly what he means, and good enough to put Gil on a quick detour to the bathroom. Jack ends the duel when he tosses a nickel towards Gil and tells him to go buy a portfolio of penny stocks.
What about the movie Boiler Room?
Ugh, Vin Diesel with hair? I just can't. And that's the end of our 6th session. In summary, we covered how to fake discussing the stock market. Tip 1 was learn foreign terms. Tip 2, keep your machine clean. That's your body. And tip 3, know the show. So, by applying these useful tips with a little time, effort, and practice, you'll never feel cornered or not in control of any conversation. I want to thank my AI.
I can buy and sell you.
And thank you, my listeners, for sharing your time with us on our 6th podcast. Please follow us and spread the word that no matter how crappy your day is going, no matter how much you'd like to run screaming while stuck at a family event without knowing how to mass hypnotize an entire room, relief in the form of a little bit of fact, fiction, and fun is only a click away. Later all.